before the end, we're going to just have a moment of silence and remember those who had fallen on this day and had their life taken away prematurely. We'll never forget you. But now, let's go see Hell. Hell, the Norse goddess of the underworld. Not the way that you think she is. She is the most caring of all. But let's really get into this. And for some background, I have worked with Hell for three, well, oh, three almost completely full, 4 complete years consistently. And I know that was kind of a way. Don't mind the messy bit, but still. Either way. I have worked with Hell since 2017, in the beginning of 2017. So yeah, it would have been 4 years. Whoops. But nonetheless, where do I start with Hell? Well, first off, the Hell that we know, she wasn't the first Hell. The first Hell was believed to be primordial, and she had a consort named Mimir. Not Murmur, Mimir, Mimir. And he was her consort. But the first Hell was nowhere as committed, devoted, and really attending to the dead as the original Hell was. Instead, she allowed them just to wander and do as they please, and she pretty much was just there to make sure that none got out of bounds. Hey, Jeremy. Hell, the original Hell, first one, actually retired in terms of her actually passing. Where she went to, it's not documented or stated. Or maybe it was, but the Abrahamics came in and wiped it out, so we don't have that reference. But because of her retire, the dead were wandering aimlessly from the underworld, lost, not even knowing that they're dead. Because of this, Mimir took initiative and kept the underworld, or Helheim, together. while Odin and the other divines figured out who was going to be the one to go down there and take on that obligation. And then that's when Loki and Angrboda had the children Fenrir, Yogamander, and Hel. And if you want to be extra technical, Odin's steed, I can't remember his name, is also technically also Hel's and her siblings' cousin, in a sense. And Norse mythology has a bit of a odd way of having that happen, but nonetheless. Prior to Hel and her siblings being born, Odin was given a vision by three seers that were saying Loki's children would be the cause of Ragnarok. With that, with that in mind, when he got wind or found out about Angrboda and Loki were now having children, he demanded that they were brought to him. So when the three were brought before him, he then first went with Fenrir. He became bounded by, I believe it is 7 or 8 extremely rare things of the world. Like, for example, the sound of a cat's landing, the hair of a bearded woman. You get some really rare things. And it was made by the dwarfs. Yargamander was chucked into the ocean, and all that was left was hell. This is where the myth can split 2 ways. It all depends which route you go with. I prefer the second one I'm going to mention because the first one, I don't like the first one. I don't even like saying it. The first version, Odin goes to hell, grabs her by the throat, and slams her down to Helheim. And then by default, she gets the realm. And that's also the lazy way of putting it. And I don't like that one. Then there's the other way, which is more drawn out and is more honorable. Odin was approaching Hel, and Hel's head was down. Odin stopped in front of her, pondered, and looked at her, and said, "Look up at me, child." And she just lifted her head. And when Hel was born, half of her body was covered in dark, like half was pitch black or dark blue. The other was in light, and you could actually see it. Upon this sight, the other gods that were there, seeing how Hel's face was, were mortified, and they were pushing Odin to just outcast her and don't allow her to come into Valhalla. So Odin, seeing her, pondered, and then made the decision she is to go to Asgard alongside us because she has divine blood in her. The other gods were looking at Odin like, "What? You're gonna let her come in? She has divine blood and giant blood, but still, divine's there. She goes with us." And believe it or not, Thor also has the same type of biological like blood mix of divine and giant or Jotun. Hell has the same. However, it could possibly be said because of how one side's in light, one side is in the dark and shadow. It could also show that possibly the blood combination didn't mix and then it's staying separate as just a theory, but still. So Hel was allowed to go into Asgard alongside the divines. Unfortunately, while there, whenever she tried to approach the others or was around anybody else, everybody else either did one, looked at her funny, gave her dirty looks, and was just like backing away from her, ran away from her, like completely saw her coming and just bolted, ignored her, refused to do any kind of interaction with her, and made her feel outcasted and started passively pushing her away and wanting nothing to do with her, all because of just how her appearance was. And there are some depictions of Hel being also half alive and half dead, but the original way it was written, she was covered in light and also dark. Upon this happening over so many times, again and again and again, she decided that I don't want to be here anymore. Why am I going to be in a place where nobody even wants me around and everybody shuns me away? So she made the choice to go to Odin, and she asked of him, Odin, I want out of this place. Is there any way I can get out of here? Shocked, Odin looked at her and replied, why do you want to leave such a glorious place, child? Why do you want to leave the gods? Why? And she said, because everybody looks at me, judges me. Nobody wants anything to do with me just because of how I look. I get judged. I get dirty looks. I hear people talking horrible about me. I don't want to be around in this place anymore. Where can I go and be free of this place? Odin pondered and told her to come back the next day. Next day rolls around, she comes back to Allfather, and then Odin gives her two choices. Option one, she stays and remains, regardless of what's going on, or she can then take authority and the realms of Helheim and the entirety of it, without even a single second of pondering. She instantly chose to go down to Helheim. And even regardless of like what Odin was going to be informing her that this is what you're going to have to do, these are your obligations, she just took it. Hello, and do you say your name Athena? That name's pretty, Athena. That name's pretty. I know that was random, but still, I hope I said it right. But now that Hel, the one that we know today, now has the realm of Helheim as her dominion and how she's ruling it, she was also given by Odin full authority of the dead. Full authority. For example, say if you have, say for an example, if you have like a Valkyrie taking a fallen soldier or an injured up, if Hel wanted to, she could easily just tell the Valkyrie taking the soldier to Valhalla, drop him, and they would have to drop him because she has full authority over the dead. So since that man has fallen in battle or woman has fallen, the Valkyrie's taking them up. Hel says, drop it. They would have to drop it, and that was bestowed by Odin himself. But before she went down to Helheim and to start taking over rulership and letting Mimir be able to be free of it, she vowed to welcome any dead, anybody that has passed away, any animal, any plant, anything that has been passed on. She vowed to welcome them in and caretake to them. In other words, say if you have someone like Adolf Hitler, I'm going that far. Adolf Hitler, think of like the most Jeffrey Dahmer, literally any person that you would think that person's like they're sick, like in the head mentally, and they're not really fit for human society. Hell welcomes them and takes them in. That's because she is able to see much deeper than any other god can, because she sees person. I'm here. no matter what. And even also, Hell herself actually favors those who are outcasted, the elderly, the sick, the lame, disabled, mentally disabled, or deformed, or missing limbs. Hell welcomes those people because, and even also those that are deemed like atheists, Hell welcomes them. And if there is ever a moment where somebody passes on, and if they don't have a afterlife to go to, or if, if a certain divine doesn't claim them, Hell takes them by default because she would rather this passed on person or soul not be wandering aimlessly, but being able to ha- be in this passed on state in the term of being comforted and being caretaken to. Because the way that she revamped and took over Helheim, instead of allowing the dead just to wander aimlessly without any kind of supervision or care, she planted orchards of apple, like trees of apples, pretty much refurbished the manor, cleaned up the place, and made Helheim like a giant soup kitchen that's constantly going. And it's been noted she does not stop moving because she continuously serves every debt she has and doesn't stop. And if you're looking at the perspective of her being half alive and half dead, when she walks, her entire right side, because that's the side that's dead, it's completely dead weight. So she walks like this whole side is white. And like I said, she moves, she doesn't stop moving. She just keeps going and going and going and doesn't stop because she's actually giving the care that she never got to other people that she's given in her domain because she understands how it is to be shunned away and not even given a single care about. So because of that, she tries to ensure that no other passed on ever experiences that at all. And best of all, she chooses to do this. If she wanted to, she could do whatever the heck she wanted to do with the dead. She has full authority. But instead, she serves the passed on. She caretakes to them by her own will. And even say, if you were to approach her or ask her to come towards you, I can promise you this. And I don't, I'm one of those people that if I make promises, I know I can keep them. And I know I can be assuring of it. Hell is probably, if not the very few divine beings, always come to you, regardless of what your background is, regardless of what your faith is, regardless of how you look, regardless if you're sick, ill, healthy, depressed, don't matter. You call out to her, she will come. She does not ignore any person who calls her because she is so strictly devoted on guiding and helping mankind expand and grow that she will, at least the bare minimum, be there to listen, to not make you feel alone. And remember, she accepts anyone and everyone and does not judge at all. You can think of probably the absolute worst thing you've ever done in your life, regardless of how sick, distraughting it is to other people, you would think it'd be. Hell does not flinch. You could be literally a mass murderer. She will not even flinch. She will still be focused on you, listening, and giving you a sense of someone listening to you and being there. And that is intense. And that is really, there's no word to describe it because it's unheard of. When it comes to like other mythologies, she is not really mentioned that much. But anyway, she would much rather be more focused on attending to her obligation to the passed on. She would rather be doing that than being involved in other circumstances. But in regards to like the passing of Balder, she is mentioned, and she agrees to allow Balder to be out of hell, let go of out of Helheim on one condition. Every being and everything, including plant, animal, and divine, and essentially everything that exists, must weep or shed a tear or cry for Baldur's death. Every single being has to. So upon that, the word got out, and everything, everyone, every plant, and every animal wept, except one giantess. I can't recall her name right now, but it was potentially believed that that giantess was actually Loki in disguise. And she said, I'm not going to cry for Baldur. You never appreciated him. You pretty much used him as a target, and you did not truly take value in his time when you guys had him. So I'm not going to cry for it. No, I'm not going to cry so that way you guys are able to get back something you neglected. And because of that, Baldur remained in Helheim with Hel. And all Hel said was, condition was not met, he stays with me. And Hel is mentioned in the Battle of Ragnarok, and she sides with her father Loki. But now here's the thing. If Hel could have the choice, she would much rather have the stance of, if you two want to go at it, fine. Keep me out of it. I want to stay with my dead. She would much rather stay in Helheim and keep doing what she's been doing, serving the dead, caretaking to them, rather than go and fight. She would much rather do that. But since she's not given the choice, she chooses just to side with her father. Does she survive or does she perish? It's hard to say. But it's still admirable to rather not get involved in the end of the world and the fight and the battle for the end of the world, and would much rather stay and keep doing an obligation that was about to. But she had no choice. No, because of the Abrahamic intrusion and the poisoning of the Nordic belief system, the ancient Nordic belief system. There's also a reference to when I say Lucifer, keep in mind, this is not the same Lucifer that's of Satanism, Luciferianism, and the left hand path. It's not the same one. Most definitely not the same one. Because this Lucifer is the one that's from the Abrahamic faiths, which is completely different than this Lucifer. Completely different. They're not the same. Remember that. Upon Lucifer from the Abrahamic faith being casted out of heaven to the ground, he landed in Helheim. And as soon as he got up, he then decided to make the choice to start taking the precautions to claim Helheim for his own. And he actually said it out loud. And a passed on overheard this, then went towards Hel's manor in Helheim, where she was still serving and caretaking to her dead. The passed on informed her about the the winged man who appeared in the realm suddenly and what he was saying. Hel, furious, demanded the passed on to bring him to her. So they did. Upon sight, that the Abrahamic Lucifer looked at her and said, "What a hideous creature." And Hel looked back at him and just told him, "So what makes you think you're going to take my realm? What makes you think you're going to even get any of my land?" And from there, if you're familiar with Norse tradition, there is a kind of, if you're familiar with like what's the TV show called on MTV called I think it was called Your Mama. Yeah, essentially it's called flighting. Each party takes turns insulting one another until one steps up, or one couldn't even make a comeback insult back within a short period of time. So Hell and Abraham and Lucifer start flighting at one another, and it goes on and on and on and on up to the point where Hell has enough of it, slams her fist down on her chair, and then in a moment of like a blinking of an eye, she goes right for his throat, picks him up, and throws him out the window, where that Abraham Lucifer falls down, lands feet first through Niflheim, which is the frozen lake, lands feet first, gets stuck at the waist, and then the frozen ice lake grasps him by the waist, holding him in place. And as soon as he lands and he gets stuck there, he can't move or anything. Hell then appears in front of him, looks down, and tells him, "So, were you saying you're going to be taking my realm from me? I don't think you're going to be able to do that now." And then she just took her leave. And that is actually from how Dante's Inferno, like Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradiso. For Inferno, that description of Abraham and Lucifer being stuck at the waist in Helheim, that's where it originated from. The last circle of hell being a frozen lake. That's Helheim. I mean, Niflheim, the frozen lake, where the souls of those who were the worst and those who needed to have the harshest things be karmically given to them. That's where they went. But again, like I said in the very, very beginning, that Lucifer is not the same one that's in Luciferianism. It's not the same one. Remember that. Because the Abrahamic faiths, when they came in, they altered and they destroyed the traditional Nordic faith system and incorporated their terminology, and they demonized hell, and they actually got the hell Hell from her name. Remember that. And like here, this Lucifer, that's not the same one. That's not the same one. Because this Lucifer of the left-handed path in Satanism and Luciferianism, he's a guru, a teacher, one who brings you out of death and out of suffering. He's way more peaceful and way more supportive and understanding. And he most definitely, I would not think he would be insulting someone, at least in my viewpoint, is not the same one. Remember that. And I'm saying that over and over again to make sure that it's perfectly clear that I myself do have a very intense respect for Satanas, the left-handed path, and all that. And of course, all my friends who are of the left-handed path and of Satanism together. And I'm not wanting to even take any kind of potential harm be brought to them. That's why I'm continuously stressing it's not the same one. But anyway, moving onward. Let's see. Planetary wise, instantly, she's Saturnian. Because Saturn is a planet of duty, commitment, sacrifice, order, structure, discipline, servitude, death, reality, practicality, and is also cold, the most cold and dark. Hell also is of the dead, serves her dead, is structured, organized, and disciplined, and making sure that she attends to those she has to attend to. And she also walks like a limp, like how Shani does from Hinduism. Lord Shani, he walks with a limp too, because he got harmed in the leg, and now he walks with a limp. Hell has the same thing. Of like I said earlier, of all the gods, she is one of the very few that'll always respond. If you call on her, she will always respond. Even if you don't even catch it, she'll be there. Like here. I don't know if you can see, there's more of a defined shadow right there. Is more refined. Yes, I'm actually trying to point it out. It's more refined. There she is. She literally will be there for any reason, any regard, and if you need any kind of advice, she will give you the harshest truth about it. She would tell you point blank, you're stupid. Stop it. This stupid crap you keep doing, harming yourself, stop doing it. It's stupid. She's point blank. Not because she's cruel, but because she understands that you need to hear the truth. And prolonging the inevitable of having your emotions and feelings being crushed with something being sugar coated, she doesn't operate like that. She tells you, you're dumb. Stop it. How could you say that to me? Well, if you weren't dumb, I wouldn't be telling you. That's how point blank she is. With my experience with her, she has been probably the most protective, the most comforting, and the most attentive, like I said. But also, I have to say, she probably has been the most cruel and the most heart shattering towards me for good reason. But especially when she was teaching me the way that she wanted me to go about doing any form of interaction with the dead, she literally drilled in my head a set guideline that I have to follow, and I've been following ever since she gave it to me, which was years back. Going to the cemetery, interacting with the dead, it's so strict that I have to follow every single step the exact same time every time, and no exceptions. It doesn't matter if I've been to the same gravesite or same cemetery 300 times or just twice. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't change. It's always the same. Reason being, as she told me, so you know, kid, at any point, if you take with you any of my passed on who I caretake to, if anything happens to them and you don't inform me of it, you're gonna wish that you were just like them. Don't you neglect them. Do not have anything happen to them. And don't think they're your little toys to play with. And because of that, I am so, well, even beyond just that, I follow that every single time because just of how deeply connected I've been with her and how uh, I'll get to that part like when I tell like my first interaction with her. But nonetheless, she, the best put it, she put it, yeah, if you have anything happen to my dad, you're gonna wish you were like them. Because she is one who actually is frowns upon any kind of form of necromancy, regardless if it's simple, minuscule, or actually like bringing the dead to work with. She is strict, and she is extremely distrusting of anyone that practices it. However, she will allow those she deems worthy to practice it by her own will, though, and her own choice. Now, I'm going to see if I can find an that one image that I have. Eh, where's this bloody thing? But I'm going to try and find this image that I took about 2 to 3 years ago, around there. And this picture, there it is, right there. Okay, I'm going to show you this image. And this picture I took, there, and voila, that is actually hell. I took that picture and I was taking a bowl to the kitchen and was washing it out. And as soon as I finished washing it, I walked back to the room I was staying in. I turned to face the door, which is this is the front door of the house, inside. I turned to the right, I looked, and then I saw this. And immediately I knew it was her. And oh yeah, this was not the first time I met her, by the way. I saw that, I immediately took a picture, and she just stood there staring at me. And I was home alone in the house. Nobody else was there, but just and yeah, I mean, I wasn't even terrified or fearful at all. It's like, oh, I fell. And I'm not sure. Well, the my thumbnail for this video, that was also her photobombing me because I wouldn't even know how to even have like that perfect down the middle light and also more darkened part be the way that it was. I don't even know how you could even do that perfectly right down the middle like how it was. Just trying to find an image, another image of it if I can, I hope. But if I can't, oh well, it is what it is. But yeah, she photobombed me literally in that picture. Just like, hey kid, I'm here. Okay. And she also was who prevented me from going through with a suicide attempt. And that's just the truth, and that's just how it is. But nonetheless, when I thought the worst possible thing that could happen, and I would dream that it would never happen, and I thought it could never have happened. Well, that one thing that I thought would never happen, and I wished more than anything wouldn't happen. Unfortunately, that reality came true. Somebody dear and close to me, somebody messaged me and informed me that he, he took his life. And that set me into a state of mind that it almost did push me to end my own life because I had the thought, why would I be alive if I had to live now knowing that what makes me feel my best is gone? Why am I going to stay on this earth if I don't have that, like, driving me forward? If that's the case, I don't want to be here either. And before I could even get close enough to even have the attempt happen, yeah, she came toward, she came to me and just yelled, "Get up, or you're going to die." But of course, much louder and much more ear shattering. Like, the best way to describe it, imagine two jet planes right next to your ear, and they just take off at the same time. Yeah, that loud. And that's when, yeah, she screamed, "Get up, or you will die." And I was laying, I remember, face down on the floor. I looked up, and then that's when I saw her looking down back at me. And then I would get into more detail, but YouTube would be like, it's a bit too dark. But nonetheless, that was when she reached out with her dead hand and got me to stand back up. And unknowing to me, the individual who sent the message saying that he was dead, come to find out it was not true. Because 30 minutes later, after I washed myself, because I did pretty gruesomely beat on myself, because I was thinking that it was my fault that he died. I did not do what I said I would do. Oh, there it is. Mm, I found the image, but it's actually, I think that, yeah, that was actually originally when I took the picture, but making it black and white. So here, come on, there we go. Yep, that, I don't know how it happened like that, but if you notice how it's a perfect split down the middle. Yep, the dark shadow side, there's hell. And of course, me on the other side. I don't even know how in the world was such a perfect straight line, but it was. And it's mind-boggling. And I think, maybe, and for me personally, speaking about what had happened and what I've gone through, it's not at all discomforting. In fact, for me, I'm kind of glad that I do have the viewpoint like I do about it, saying it is what it is what's happened, but it's another reason and proof of informing people that sometimes the darkest things, they have to be spoken about, not just to kind of flaunt it as a trophy and like, oh, oh, I went through this and I survived. Ooh, no. Ultimately, it should have the idea and the goal in mind of showing people that something so minuscule can be done in the moment, and then you lose your life. But it could be also a choice may be made, and it cannot be taken back, and then it causes immense damage without you even knowing it. It is a change that of course, obviously cannot be reverted, but still, life is always meant to be enjoyed and fulfilled, but in the moment, always live as if the next 24 hours are your last. Let that be your driving force to live and still ensure that your life is living to the fullest. Because every day ahead is a new experience waiting. And you never know, because the next day or the next moment may actually be what you've longed for and what you thought you've lost. That moment, it comes back. You never know. And I mean, I have to say, my experience is true for me, because that's what happened. I thought the worst happened. Luckily, and I'm so glad it didn't. And honestly, Hell did not have to take this initiative and act to stop me. She didn't have to. I didn't even know she existed. But because, for whatever reason, she deemed she had to, she took the initiative, especially when I couldn't do it for myself. And because of that, that's why I've been so strictly devoted and committed towards her ever since. Because she prevented permanent damage to not only me, but to somebody else. But she did something that literally no matter what I could do with my life, nothing could match to what she did. Nothing. Nothing I can do can match. So that's the best I can do. Equitable exchange. Best put it. And yeah, I've been lecturing for the past almost hour now. Oh, but anyway, as of now, I'll leave it open for open floor for any questions of any kind, readings, whatever. It's up, yep, it's now open floor, so put any question you deem fit or anything, just have at it. Just not the face. Yep, like literally any question of the occult, anything that you're curious about, wondering, have at it. Just be practical and realistic about your question. Don't ask me questions like, are you single and looking? Like, no, come on, man. Use your head. Flattered, but now's not the time for that. And while I'm thinking about it as well, the best offering you can give hell is just to live and do what you want to do and what's best for you. That's the best offering you can give towards her. Because I learned the hard way. Because what I used to do was just keep giving her stuff more and more and more and more to the point where she got just so disgusted and sick of it that she told me, "Kid, stop giving me this crap. Stop." Literally, she told me, "Enough of this crap. Stop it." Well, since it's pretty much been nice, dead, and quiet, I guess I'll just take my leave here. Oh, and one thing about it. Since pretty much the majority has spoken on that community post about what my next thing for me to write about, since it appears to be forming relationships with divine, natural beings, fae, animal spirits, passed on, totem animals, elementals, etc. Since that one seems to be the number one option that's chosen, that'll be what I'll be writing about next. But that'll be quite a ways in the future. But nonetheless, I'm gonna take the leave here. I'll just talk to you guys later.